台スターティンググリッドに揃いました。この後のスケジュールをお伝えしていきますと、この後はですね、13時9分にローリングラップ1分前が押されます。そして13時10分ローリングラップスタートということになっていきまして、そこから1周、いわゆるフォーメーションラップを行っていきまして、そして隊列を整えて、最終コーナーから一気にですねローリングスタートで結構ギチギチの状態でね、間隔なく、スタートしていく、そんな戦いになります。レースフォーマットは30分プラス1周です。トップのマシンが30分を経過して、そしてコントローラーに戻ってくるとファイナルラップということになります。さあ F1 のサポートレースとして開催されます。フェラーリチャレンジソロコースソロテオキリンジャパンラウンド1、それではレースはスターティンググリッドご紹介してまいりましょう。さあ、フィニッシュの皆さんも、そのファンの皆さんも、ドライバーの名前が呼ばれますから、どうぞ大きな拍手をしてあげてください。レースは、見事、ゴールポイントを獲得したのは、カーナンバー16。雨の中、素晴らしいタイムアタックでゴールを獲得です。最高峰クラスのドライバーを凌駕しました。きれいに AM クラス、きれいにアマクラスにエントリーしています。コース名古屋からカーナンバー16は、秋田。素晴らしいタイムアタックでゴールからのスタートです。そして2番手からのスタートはピレリクラスのゴールポジションになります。2023年フェラーリチャレンジジャパンのチャンピオンロストスクーデリアからカーナンバー1番は内田雄大。2列目3番手からのスタートはカーナンバー4番、昨年フェラーリチャレンジワールドファイナルで3位を獲得したスーパージェントルマンです。ロストスクーデリアからカーナンバー4番今川信弘。そして4番手からのスタートはカーナンバー2番です。23歳の若手ドライバー、現役のスーパージュニーをドライブするプロドライバーでもあります。フェラーリジャパンからのエントリー、カーナンバー2番は古谷優雅。3列目に行きましょう。5番グリッドからのスタートはカーナンバー192番、昨年コッパセルクラス3位のドライバーです。エルオートイタリアから、こちらはシェルクラスのオールスター、カーナンバー192番は国広雄一。6番手からのスタートはカーナンバー15番、2022年コッパセルクラス優勝経験もあります。コース大阪からカーナンバー15コールドバックス。4列目に行きましょう。7番手からのスタートはカーナンバー51番、昨年の鈴鹿のレースではコッパセルクラス見事優勝も果たしています。コース大阪からカーナンバー51番柳楽勝地。そして8番手からのスタートはカーナンバー81、こちら鈴鹿を走り込んでいるドライバーです。経験豊富、コース大阪からカーナンバー81番は飯谷敦。そして9番手からのスタートはカーナンバー55、こちら元 F3 の経験もあるドライバーです。コース島からカーナンバー55磯垣元彦。そして10番手からのスタートはカーナンバー199、こちらはシェル AM クラスのゴールシッターです。ニコール・コンペティショーネからカーナンバー199ビル・キム。11番手からのスタートはカーナンバー152コース島から下山努。12番手からのスタートはカーナンバー18フェラーリオンサンフランシスコからカーナンバー18はジェームス・ホイラン。そして13番手からのスタートはカーナンバー124番コース大阪から米田勝。14番手からはカーナンバー104番オートキャマリーノから三浦達隆。18番手からはカーナンバー143コーンズ大阪から福田健一。19番手からのスタートはカーナンバー180、カーナンバー108番
side Iritani, Motiko Isasaki on row 5 alongside Phil Kim, Shiyoyama and Wieland on row 6, Yoneda and Miura on row 7, Hiwatashi and Shibata on row 8, Saito and Kenichi, Leo and Katayama bringing us up to 20th position. Nariki Kawasaki and Yoshifumi Komatsu are next alongside Shinya Nakajima and Ryuto Umuri. Tetsuo Masumoto and Takashi Kurakawa on the 11th row, and then behind Yasutaka Shirisaki and Yamato Yamaguchi. Now, Yasutaka Shirisaki is going to be a question mark because he did have a big off in quali. Qualifying was held in wet conditions, quite a difficult set of conditions for these drivers. A record grid, 28 cars set to take the start for this one, the biggest grid in the short history of Ferrari Challenge Japan. Here's the 15 car. There is Mr. Coldmax himself representing Cornes Osaka. You see there underneath the driver names, you have the names of the entrants, and the entrants in Ferrari Challenge are, of course, our dealer groups here in Japan. Not all Japan, though. We do have a couple of interlopers there. Nicole Competizioni is one entrant from outside of Japan. That's a Korean entry for Phil Kim. We also have Ferrari of San Francisco on the grid in the hat with the 18 car. That is James Wyland. James Wyland, the ultimate world traveller, I think it's safe to say, in Ferrari Challenge. Of course, the American racer debuted in the North American Championship, but has also done full seasons in Europe, has done a good amount of the Asian series and now Ferrari Challenge Japan as well. Wonderful day here at Suzuka. Of course, it's so prestigious to be here on the Japanese Grand Prix support package. It's a round that everybody wants to succeed at. One of the big stories as well coming into this round is going to be the car starting from 4th position. That's the number 2, Yuga Furitani. He's entered into Trofeo Pirelli. That is the fastest group of drivers, of course. Trofeo Pirelli for our fastest drivers. Pirelli AM, Copashel and Copashelam are 4 driver categorizations. The Copashel AMs, some of our newer drivers, our more experienced drivers, are typically in Trofeo Pirelli or Trofeo Pirelli AM. However, the Trofeo Pirelli driver Yuga Furitani is brand new to Ferrari Challenge, however certainly not brand new to racing in general. 23-year-old racer entered by Ferrari Japan as part of an initiative to bring new exciting talent onto the grid. A former podium finisher in the Super Formula Lights, a former champion in the Formula Regional Japan Championship as well, so someone who is very, very strong in a single-seater, getting a go with a roof over his head for the first time. That car from 4th position will certainly be one to watch. Certainly a mixed-up grid as well, with this Akita on pole position. He is a Trofeo Pirelli AM driver, so Trofeo Pirelli AM, typically we wouldn't expect them on pole position as the engineers get themselves G'd up for the race. Yudai Uchida, of course, we always expect him to be at the front in the number 1 car. But I think Akita, it's going to be an interesting situation to see whether he can hold on to the lead off the rolling start and when we go racing, because traditionally you'd expect him to maybe be down on something like the 2nd row, but he is a very fast learner, is Akita, our pole sitter. 3rd in last year's Trofeo Pirelli AM class. He's back in Trofeo Pirelli AM this year in Ferrari Challenge Japan. Only started racing in the Ferrari Challenge in 2022 and has constantly improved throughout 2023. We're expecting more of the same from him in 2024. As you see, we've got the Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo machines out on the circuit. The 296 is now racing in North America and Europe this season. The 2 national series for Ferrari Challenge, the UK series and Ferrari Challenge Japan, still the home of the 488 Challenge Evo car. A venerable machine, but still an incredibly fast piece of kit. A very forgiving car as well for newcomers. It's relatively friendly to drive, but it is very difficult to master, and that's what you want out of cars like this. You can see the grid on their formation lap then. Drivers to watch through the order, I would suggest Cold Max is possibly one to watch here as well. We saw him in his car. Cold Max has been racing in Ferrari Challenge since 2018, and the intel I have is that he's usually at his best at circuits that require some bravery, and I don't think there are many circuits on our calendar that require more bravery than Suzuka. Of course, the Suzuka circuit is one of those old school facilities, and still very much a modern one too. The most sought after destinations on the Formula One calendar as well. So much history here at these corners and these circuits. It is going to be a rolling start, 30 minutes plus 1 lap to recap those first few positions. Akita on pole. The outside of the front row will be Yudai Uchida in the first of the Trofeo Pirelli cars, alongside the Pirelli AM driver Akita, Nobuhiro Imada and Yuga Furitani rounding out those first 2 rows of the grid. Keep an eye on that number 2 car. Furitani, kind of the unknown quantity up there at the sharp end. We know how quick he is in a single-seater. We're now going to get to see how that translates into dry conditions. It was wet in qualifying. We'll now see how that wet weather pace translates into dry weather racing. Akita in the 16 then pulls himself over to the right-hand side of the circuit. He will, of course, have the inside line run off the rolling start into the first corner. 30 minutes plus 1 lap of racing will begin. The 2024 Ferrari Challenge Japan season will begin in a matter of moments here. We've been waiting for season 2 for a long time, and finally it has arrived with a record entry list. 28 cars set to take the start. It's a historic weekend for Ferrari Challenge Japan, and the first race will begin as soon as those red lights go out. And they will do so in a matter of seconds. There they go. We are racing down to the first corner then. Akita going to the middle, leaving the inside exposed, but that should be okay. Uchida a little bit earlier on the brakes than our leader, Akita. So Akita in the lead. Uchida with the inside line open there. Nobuhiro Imada having a look to the inside, but he loses out to Yuga Furitani. Furitani up to 3rd position in the early going, and look at how much quicker he was there through the S's. He looks like he's carrying a lot more speed on cold tyres in the early stages of this race. Your top 3 is Akita from Uchida, from Furitani at the front of the order. We'll pick up who is leading in Copa Shell and Shell Am as this race progresses, but already a move for 2nd place. Look at Furitani go. Brilliant progress as they approach the Degners for the first time around the outside. Brilliant driving from Yuga Furitani. He's already up to 2nd place. It's only taken him half a lap to get up there to P2. What can Akita do now to try and hold on to this race lead? Can our champion, Yudai Uchida, try and fight back against the youngster in the number 2 car? Everybody making their way through the hairpin for the first time then. There is the 152 car of Tsutomu Shimoyama. Shimoyama, one of the first of the Shell Am runners. As we see here, a challenge for the lead. Furitani to the inside of Akita. Akita trying to get a good run out of Spoon. And it's now a drag race down to 130R, but it's a drag race that looks to be going the way of Yuga Furitani. We have a yellow flag in Sector 2 as Furitani has moved up into the race lead. Brilliant driving to go from 4th on the grid to 1st before they even get 2/3 of the way through the lap. Uchida now to the inside for 2nd place as well. So as perhaps expected in these dry conditions, Akita not quite showing the same level of dominance that he displayed in qualifying. But it is now on Yudai Uchida to try and hold on to Yuga Furitani. In they go then onto second lap of the race through turn 1 and 2 for the first time out into the S's now. We're going to take a look in the next few seconds at some replays from that first lap. Let's take a look then at that start. Everybody fanning out, trying to find their position at the beginning of the race. And keep an eye on the second row there. Ferrari just carrying that pace around the outside. And he would move up into third before they even exited turn 2. We had a spin as well at Spoon. Masaru Yaneda in the 1-2-4 car, one of many Cornez Osaka entries. And thankfully managed to get that car back out there onto the circuit fairly quickly. We did see yellow flags. We've now caught exactly why there were yellow flags. There is Coldmax then in the second place car within Pirelli AM. And I believe just ahead of him is the first of our Copa Shell runners. Yes, that's quite a good showing early on then from Ryuichi Kunihiro. Our 3-digited numbers, the cars that have 3-digit numbers beginning with the number 1, are the cars in Copa Shell and Copa Shell AM respectively. And all the way up there in 5th place, as you see on screen, is Ryuichi Kunihiro for M Auto Italia. Started this race in 5th overall, retains that 5th overall right now. His next Copa Shell competitor in 13th place is the 104 of Kazutaka Miura. So Miura a long way back from his next Copa Shell combatant. There is some fighting going on further back. That's the 55 car looking to the inside. That is Motohiko Isozaki, a driver who won, of course, at Finale Mondiali last year in Copa Shell AM. Isozaki will be one of our fresher drivers, I think, coming into this race. He was racing across the winter months as well. So while some of these drivers are back at the wheel of a race car for the first time in a while this weekend, he is now already about 10 races deep into his season, and there goes Isozaki. He gets himself up into 8th place then with that move on Iritani. That is for 3rd place, in 4th place rather, in the Trofeo Pirelli AM. So Motohiko Isozaki moving up to 8th overall there. Our leader in the Copa Shell AM classification is the 199 car. That is Phil Kim at the wheel of the 199 car. He leads in the Shell AM class. I understand we can take a look then at some contact that has happened around the circuit. Contact at the first corner. Let's take a look at this then. This is further back in the pack. Yaneda in the 1-2-4 car trying to go around the outside, and there you see some carbon fiber flying. Kawasaki just trying to lean there on Yaneda. Yaneda powered around the outside, but just an iota of bodywork flying away in that one. Akita and Imada still running 3rd and 4th place. For Imada, it's going to be a matter of wanting to get past as soon as possible. Imada, who has raced Super Formula Lights alongside Ferrari Challenge cars over the last couple of years, is likely going to be the main challenger across the season to our defending champion Yudai Uchida, and he'd love to start this season with an overall podium, but at the moment he has Akita just ahead of him. Of course, Trofeo Pirelli AM versus Trofeo Pirelli at the front, but classes only matter so much to these drivers. They want to fight for these positions, and I suspect that Akita will be under fire more and more and more as this race goes on if he continues to hold off the advances of the number 4. Akita, as we mentioned at the start of the race, 3rd in last year's Trofeo Pirelli AM, and he would love to try and make a championship bid this season. Started this race from pole position, of course, has put himself in a very strong position within Trofeo Pirelli AM for this first race of the weekend. You can see there that the gap at the front already out to 4 seconds. Very, very impressive. that we're seeing our newcomer, Ferrari, building such a lead over Uchida, who knows these cars like the back of his hand. So then we continue to watch this battle for third position. It does look to me as though Uchida might be getting closed in on a little bit by Akita and Imada potentially. Their last lap times actually go against that theory. Akita and Imada in the mid-209s, Uchida with a 208.985. But maybe Uchida's put a foot wrong on that lap somewhere. Fastest lap of the race, though, does belong to our race leader, Ferrari. As you saw there, the only driver in the 2:07 bracket out there on the circuit at the moment. There is the 199 car. There is our Copa Shell AM leader. That is Phil Kim. Kim, who was brought in to this series by former Ferrari Challenge racer Jay Park. Meanwhile, down at 130R, I think we've had a replay here of just a driver losing some places here. Ryuichi Kunihiro dropping 2 places in one fell swoop there. I think lost out coming out of Spoon to Isosaki. And then James Violent taking the opportunity to move past as well. I believe we might have a car spinning off the circuit further back around the field, but gets back underway. We had a brief yellow flag in sector 2, but thankfully that was fairly short-lived. No disruption to the racing then. Some good runoff area at some of the more tricky points of this circuit, so which does, of course, help us a little bit. Let's take a look then. It was going into Spoon, and who was it that spun? It was Norikazu Shibata, another of the Corners Osaka drivers, and doing a good job there, just waiting his turn to get the car turned around. You need to be a bit calculating with when you try and make that maneuver. The last lap for Uchida was a 209.182. So again, fairly equidistant actually, with Akita behind him in terms of lap pace. There is Yagura in 6th position. A driver that also enters in the Trofeo Pirelli AM. Kanji Yagura was 6th in the Trofeo Pirelli AM category last year. 5 wins in his career so far. Kanji Yagura is known to be a fearless driver. We have one driver being put a lap down further back there. But Kanji Yagura, he's someone that we can always expect to throw caution to the wind if he gets half an opportunity. And Cold Max will know that. He will be on the defensive. Cold Max has driven these cars since 2018, knows his way around a Ferrari Challenge car. So many of these drivers show so much promise, so much growth. Weekend on weekend, you can almost see the growth session on session for some of the drivers early in their Ferrari Challenge tenure. And we'll certainly see some of the drivers maybe further back at the moment, developing their skill set, learning from coaches, learning from their engineers. I understand that we have an off, we do. One of the bright yellow machines, the 107 car, is off the circuit. That's Nakajima off the track then. Shinya Nakajima heading towards Spoon there, so that is quite a fast off there. Looks like that car's gone rear first, and it's of course into the gravel, so we'll see how that is managed by race control. Shinya Nakajima likely taking no further part in this race as we get a look back at what happened. Oh dear, came into shot already facing the wrong way. The mid-Sapporo entered car. So easy to just get a wheel on the grass and lose the rear. Covered by local yellows at the moment then. We'll see if that gets evolved into anything further. You can see the light panels and the marshals making our drivers aware. Akita and Nobuhiro Imada continuing their battle for 3rd place, but they have to hold station. They have to acknowledge those yellow flags, just lift out of the throttle. Nikita there getting a little bit unsettled into Spoon, but doesn't scrub too much speed off as he now powers downhill towards 130R. Approaching half distance in this 30-minute plus 1 lap race then. Furatani well clear of the chasing pack at the moment, 4.5 seconds last time by, and that's more than likely grown again on the previous lap as the battle for third bounces across the curves, the triangle, the final chicane of the lap. Safety car, though, has just been declared. Safety car is out. There was something of a whiff of inevitability about it not simply just being a local yellow. And this will bunch everyone back together. Shinya Nakajima, unfortunately, taking no further part in the race. But you can see that the safety car is out there and leading the field around. This will bunch a few drivers together. Some who started further down the order might now get another bite of the cherry, as it were, to try and move up the pack. Well, we've seen Nakajima there in the barriers, and reverse entry, effectively, going through the curve on the approach to Spoon. I'm going to look at that again as we bunch the field together, and just lost that on the first kink after the hairpin, I think, and it's very difficult to recover that situation. Unfortunately, just a bit of barrier contact as well, but it looks like the car is relatively undamaged. I'm sure that Nakajima will get to race again this weekend. Of course, we have a second race on Grand Prix Sunday tomorrow in the Ferrari Challenge Japan as well. What a great time this is for Ferrari Challenge in general. This is our second national series in Ferrari Challenge. Obviously, the UK series was the first full kind of national-only series for Ferrari Challenge. Previously, it was continental championships. Ferrari Challenge Japan the second. I understand more maybe in the offing in some of Ferrari's most popular markets in years to come. And that 28-car grid that we had at the start of this race is proof in the pudding that this concept works very well indeed. Of course, Ferrari, with so much history, so many supporters here in the wider Asian continent, but specifically in Japan as well. In fact, one of our drivers, Nariki Kawasaki, in the 117 car, is in fact the president of the Japanese Ferrari Owners Club. So he has a huge collection of Ferraris and a significant passion at the head of Japanese tifosi, as it were. I understand that our one of our Le Mans winning drivers, of course, from Ferrari's historic 10th victory at last year's Le Mans 24 Hours, the centenary event, Antonio Giovinazzi, in the paddock this weekend. As, of course, are Charles Leclerc and the Australian Grand Prix winner, Carlos Sainz. He's now got 3 victories in the book in Formula One. It's a great atmosphere within the Ferrari Challenge portion of the paddock. A lot of very, very happy drivers, returning faces and new. And of course, a lot of big names in the paddock from Ferrari and beyond on Japanese Grand Prix weekends. You see there the American flag in 8th place for James Wayland, a driver who always seems to find his way into a Ferrari Challenge race somewhere in the world. Debuted in Ferrari Challenge all the way back in 2013, but has barely taken a break since. He was actually on a bit of a hiatus in 2023. The first race back after an extended break was last year's Finale Mondiali, and I think it's safe to say that James is still getting back into his rhythm. And funnily enough, there is Wayland in the 18 car just behind Isosaki, who, as I mentioned earlier on, has done a fair bit of racing already this year. James Wayland, meanwhile, still, I think, dusting off the cobwebs after a little bit of a break from racing, recovering, I think, from an injury, and great to have him with us in Ferrari Challenge Japan. I think he will tell you personally he's most interested in getting to race on the big tracks, on the historic circuits, and that is why he's here in Ferrari Challenge Japan. We're expecting 27 full season entrants across the season. An exciting calendar taking in all of the hotspots in Japanese motorsport. We're here again in Suzuka in a couple of months' time. Also, of course, heading to circuits such as Sugo as well. Ferrari Challenge Japan grid treated to a smorgasbord of the finest circuits in Japan. A former Japanese Grand Prix host as well, of course, that being Fuji is on the calendar. You see the famous S's, the snake, so much more of a challenge. You can see the drivers fighting with the cars through here. It's of course so poised, so effortless almost looking in a Formula One car, but in these GT machines the drivers have a lot more weight to deal with. It's certainly a different experience to watch these Ferrari Challenge cars come through here versus the F1 machines. It is Suzuka that we head to next on the calendar on the 11th and 12th of May. Sugo, Suzuka and Okayama rounding out the 5-weekend calendar for the 2024 Ferrari Challenge Japan. The European and Asian Ferrari Challenge seasons, as well as North America, will of course be firing into life as well at the moment. Ferrari Challenge around the globe, just coming off the back of its 30th anniversary year in 2023. Furatani then, of course, having lost all of his gap, will be hoping that Uchida doesn't get too strong of a start once we get this race back underway. Furatani, no shortage of experience in this exact situation, of course. With junior single-seater racing often comes safety car restarts, so I'm confident that Furatani is going to be able to get off the line nicely when they roll once again, once the safety car lights are out. You can see there that the cause of the safety car has been removed. Nakajima's car just being craned away at the moment. Couldn't see him out of the car and A-OK. 107 car in a position of safety with 9 minutes and 40 seconds plus 1 lap remaining in this one. Keep an eye on that beam of light on top of the safety car. Will they go out this time, or will we have one more lap? We'll have to wait and see. Furatani just trying to keep some temperature in those tyres. And if sure enough, the lights are out on the safety car. We were eagerly anticipating it, just hoping the lights were going to go out, and sure enough, we are going to go back to racing conditions this time by. So Furatani now has the power in his possession. He can fire the car into life as soon as he wants. The green flag will be waving for him, and he pulls the trigger, and I think he does so quite early for one, and also I think before Uchida expected the driver to disappear off. So Uchida losing a car length or two there as everyone else works their way out of the triangle. It's Furatani from Uchida, from Akita, our Pirelli AM leader. Then it's Imada, Coldmax in 5th position as well. Coldmax would love to fight Akita. Akita with a massive dive to the inside there. One of the back markers, the 144 car. Yamaguchi just staying out of the way there. But that was bold from Akita. There was a lot of assumption there that that car was going to spot him and see him charging to the inside line. But it worked out. The 144 car then being lapped, as we saw there. There's your battle for third position, and look how close it is now between three of your Pirelli Am contenders. Akita in third overall, the Trofeo Pirelli Am leader. Then you've got the interloper, Imada, in the number 4 car. And then the second and third car, or the third and fourth cars in that queue, are the battle for second and third in Trofeo Pirelli Am. That is Cold Max and the 51 of Yagura, Kanji Yagura. James, oh, big move potentially on here from, oh, a tag, the 152 and the 199 come together. That was for the lead in Copa Shell Am. And Shimoyama has tagged Phil Kim into a spin. The Nicole Competizione car facing the wrong way. Doesn't look like he's in the gravel, he's just on the grass, so he should be able to get that car going again. And we'll see. Oh, as we have had a change of position. Cold Max, I think. Yes, Cold Max has got past Imada. So Cold Max has moved up to 4th place, and that means that he now has the Trofeo Pirelli Am leader Akita in his sights. But Imada fires back at 130R. That certainly wasn't expected by Cold Max. I didn't really expect it either. But here comes Cold Max now, trying to hold the inside as the 51 car is all over the back of him. Yagura, of course, also in Trofeo Pirelli Am. The battle for second in that class is now a 3-car battle, because here comes James Weiland as well. The American racer looking to the inside at the first corner. I don't think he's close enough for the move. Maybe he is. He has a look, and it doesn't quite work out in his favor. There you see the movers and shakers through the order. Weiland has already made up 5 positions in this race, and he almost made it 6 there, coming through turn 2. Certainly his confidence is growing lap on lap. We have yellow flags at the final sector as this race continues on. We have 1 car off the track there. I believe that was Omuri potentially in the 150. Yes, Omuri in the 150 car, just coming back onto the circuit. I think we're going to get a look here to the hairpin, where of course we had that contact. The Copa Shell Am leads. Battle concludes with contact. The 152 car of Shimoyama tagging the 199 of Kim, and there is how the 150 car ended up in a spin. Omuri lighting up the rears there. Ryoturi Omuri for European version gets the car turned back around. So then, here we see that battle still for second in Trofeo Pirelli Am, and for 5th overall as well. Cold Max briefly got past Imada, and then we saw Imada sneak back through. Cold Max now with a bit of an error there at Spoon. It's side by side as they now head down towards 130R, and Cold Max squeezed out there by Yagura. Yagura had the inside line, he had the high ground, and he used it expertly there. Kanji Yagura. Yagura has won in this Trofeo Pirelli Am category several times before in Ferrari Challenge Japan. Cold Max is having a go at Weiland there, as we have the 199 car getting repairs. James Weiland has moved through. He had a great run through 130R, and he managed to find his way past Cold Max. Cold Max tried to get the inside line going into the triangle, the final chicane. However, James Weiland for Ferrari of San Francisco is now up to second in third in the Trofeo Pirelli Am class, having started from 12th on the grid overall. Now being in 6th overall is a mightily impressive showing from the American racer. Through the S's we go then, as we see there Motohiko Isosaki. Now get a look back at the move from James Weiland to the inside line. Picked his spot wonderfully there. Just managed to square up the corner and got himself a good run as well out of the triangle. There's the 199 car of Phil Kim receiving some attention after the contact earlier on. The Nicole Competizione crew will no doubt be impressed nonetheless with the Korean rookies. First ever appearance brought into the series by Jay Park. Jay Park, who has been running something of an academy in Korea to get people into Ferrari Challenge racing. And that man, Phil Kim, is the first of the graduates of Jay Park's initiative. Great to see Jay still involved after several seasons racing Ferrari Challenge at the tail end of the 2010s. There is Atsushi Iritani then. He's been chasing Motohiko Isozaki for quite a lot of this race, pre and post safety car. Isozaki, of course, had one of his greatest accomplishments to date in Ferrari Challenge by winning the Copa Shell AM race at Ferrari Challenge Finale Mondiale last year. A former teammate to Kamui Kobayashi is Motohiko Isozaki, going back to the Macau Grand Prix in Formula Renault cars in the 2000s. Isozaki loves racing, that much is clear. Phil Kim, unfortunately, going no further in this race, just explaining the situation there. I'm sure he'll come back swinging, though, in race number 2 on Sunday. We return back to this fight for 8th overall. Isozaki a little bit wide there at the first corner, but Iritani also getting a little bit tripped up there. I think expected Isozaki to go through a little quicker at turn 1 than he did. Had to hesitate out of the throttle himself. You get the feeling that Iritani may be able to get this done before the end of the race. Of course, once the clock hits 0 in this race, we will have one more lap. This is 30 minutes plus 1 lap of racing. And while these two are fighting each other, they have to bear in mind as well that Shimoyama, the first of the Copa Shell AM drivers, is right there with them. He's leading Copa Shell AM, but he'd love to move further up the overall top 10. Tried to go around the outside there at the Degners, but can't get it done there. Sector 1, we have a yellow flag, and we have the 1-2-3 car off the circuit. Komatsu is off track. Yoshifumi Komatsu with a big moment there at the first corner. And I understand we may also have an off in Sector 2 as well. We do. The 192 car of Kunihiro, one of the leading cars in Copa Shell, is off the circuit. Clock is ticking down, and at the very end of this race, it has gotten quite dramatic. Here's a replay of what happened at turn 1. Komatsu, oh, contact there, sending Komatsu into the wall hard at the first corner. That was a bit of a hefty impact for Komatsu, but I believe he was racing there with Kenichi in the 143, and this was what happened to send Ryuichi Kunihiro into a spin as well. So it's all kicking off at the tail end of this race, and there you see the car digging itself in the gravel, and rather unsurprisingly, the safety car has ended up back out on the circuit. This will be the final lap of the race then. The clock has ticked down to 0. So I believe this should be the final lap of the race. Furitani has resumed his lead behind the safety car once again, and we're expecting this to be the final lap. Uchida in second place, Akita still there in third. I think we're going to get another look at that turn 1 impact. And again, the 143 car just trying to get himself to the inside. Komatsu wanted that apex for himself. They met in the middle. The end result was Komatsu off the track. You can see what both drivers were trying to do there. 192 has come to, well, that is Ryuichi Kunihiro in the gravel, of course. We already saw him in there. I thought it might have been an additional car stopped on the circuit. Furitani, in his Ferrari Challenge Japan debut then, is just moments away from taking his first checkered flag in a prancing horse machine after after several years in junior single-seaters. He is the first of a few young talents that we'll see in Ferrari Challenge Japan this year in a Ferrari Japan entry. An initiative to try and bring some young talent into the Ferrari Challenge Japan fold. Of course, we've seen Ferrari Challenge be such a fabulous launching pad in recent years for the likes of Dorian Pan, also for Tom Fleming, who had a lightning first season in Ferrari Challenge last year. The undulating, captivating and always challenging Suzuka circuit has claimed a few over the course of this race. We've also seen some brilliant scrapping up and down the order. I think driver of this race, other than our obvious race winner, would have to be that number 18 car. James Wyland has had a brilliant drive here. His first full season since 2022. And he is right back on form, having made up 6 positions in this race. Our class leaders then, Akita will win in Trofeo Pirelli AM from 3rd overall. The first of your Copa Shell AM drivers will be that number 152 car, the silver machine, the silver bullet of Tsutomu Shimoyama. The first of the Copa Shell drivers is the 109 car, that being Yasutaka Shirasaki, who debuted within Ferrari Challenge last year. And by winning that Copa Shell class, that's a bit of a redemption for him after he had a big off in qualifying here in Suzuka yesterday. And that car was repaired wonderfully. And even though he started towards the back of the field, Shirasaki there in 11th overall and will win in Copa Shell. But the winner of the Trofeo Pirelli class and the winner overall will be Yuga Furitani. Furitani then will cross the line first. The safety car withdraws so the drivers can take the flag. And it will be Yuga Furitani on his Ferrari Challenge Japan debut who takes the win from last year's champion, Yudai Uchida. Akita takes 3rd position and the Trofeo Pirelli AM order ahead of Imada, Yagura and Violent. The fans showing their appreciation. All colours of the rainbow there. I love the dedication to the merch in the stands here. Everyone has a team, don't they, for the Grand Prix, and a few drivers, I'm sure, will pick up some supporters for the rest of the Ferrari Challenge Japan season here in this paddock. Furitani, though, with all eyes on him after a exemplary performance. Of course, moved from 4th to 1st in the first lap of the race and never lost the lead from there. Great to see fans, young and old, soaking in the Ferrari Challenge Japan, the Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo cars, spectacular turbocharged V8 machines, always fun to watch. Furitani has mastered this car very, very quickly. I'm intrigued to see where Furitani and Uchida's relative performance will be on Sunday as well. We see Uchida mount a challenge. Of course, Uchida, a 3-time champion within Ferrari Challenge, twice champ in Asia Pacific, and of course the inaugural champion in Ferrari Challenge Japan. Yudai Uchida, often the benchmark here in Japan in Ferrari Challenge. There is the number 1 machine. Of course, that's the Rosso Scuderia entered car of Uchida. Of course, the only non-dealer entry is that Ferrari Japan entry of Furitani. Rosso Scuderia, one of many great partners for Ferrari in this region. They have Uchida, of course, as their flagship driver. One of the greatest thrills of all for Ferrari drivers on these Formula One support weekends is getting the ability to stand on a podium at the Grand Prix. I'm sure we will see that as well before long, as you see them head back into the support paddock, which is quite a way away from the main garage area. The 1-2-3 car still looking a little bit worse for wear, but I'm sure a lot of effort will be put in to try and get Komatsu back out there on the circuit before the end of the day, or before the end of the weekend, I should say, on Sunday's race. Bright and early tomorrow morning, opening the day's action on Grand Prix Sunday for the Ferrari, for the Japanese Grand Prix weekend. So then, let's take a look in a moment at those full results. We'll try and talk through the class winners as well in this one. You know, of course, our winner, Yuga Furatani, at the top of the standings. Let's take a look then. Furatani winning by 0.8 of a second, but of course, race ending under safety car. Uchida second, Akita the first of our Pirelli AM drivers, Nobuhiro Imada in fourth, Yagura fifth, Weiland sixth, Cold Max, Isosaki Iritani and Tsutomu Shimoyama rounding out the top 10. Shimoyama, the first of our Copa Shell AM drivers. The first Copa Shell driver in 11th place, Yasutaka Shirasaki, getting a class win ahead of Miura, Yaneda, Kawasaki, Hiwatashi, Saito, Shibata, Kenichi, Leo and Katayama. 21st place for Matsumoto, ahead of Amuri in 22nd. Yamaguchi, Kurakawa rounding out the finishing order. Kunihiro, Komatsu, Kim and Nakajima all having various dramas over the course of that race. So the crews working hard to recover the couple of cars that had dramas at the end there. Kunihiro's 192 car firmly dug into the gravel. And he's looking to see if he can help a little bit, and maybe left something in the cockpit as well. You see the spectators watching on. Always bring a set of binoculars to a circuit. That's how you know you've got an experienced spectator, if they brought their binoculars. An important and often overlooked tool in the spectator handybook. Thousands upon thousands, hundreds of thousands of fans here this weekend for the Japanese Grand Prix, of course. And the Tifosi of Japan will be hoping for a repeat, of course, of Carlos Sainz's result from Australia a couple of weeks ago. Here is the final moments of that race then. Furatani claiming a race victory on his first appearance in Ferrari Challenge Japan. The Ferrari Japan entered machine will be driven by a few bright young talents across the season. And Furatani really putting himself in the shop window there. Of course, no better place to succeed than on a Grand Prix weekend. Doesn't matter if you're in a single make car, if you're in a junior single-seater, any of the support races on the Japanese Grand Prix weekend, or any other Grand Prix weekend, if you can get yourself in the spotlight on these weekends, then that is massively important for your career. You can see some of the spectators on the banks here at Suzuka. Plenty of grandstands here at Suzuka, but lots of great vantage points as well around the circuit. On the grass banks as well, another one of the more old school features of this historic Japanese facility. Of course, qualifying day will be very exciting for the fans. Lots of international fans traveling out as well. We'll see then in the second race tomorrow quite what Uchida can do about the problem that has presented itself. That problem being young Yuga Furatani. That's going to be one of the more compelling, I think, battles on Sunday. The cars will be rolling for race 2 at 9:40 in the morning local time. That will be how we open Grand Prix Sunday. Everyone wants their opportunity on TV, gives a bit of a wave, as you would expect. As we said, 5 rounds of this season, so 10 races total for Ferrari Challenge Japan. There we see, I think, our drivers, or some of our drivers, being escorted towards the podium in the new Ferrari Purosangue, with a slightly more diminutive machine leading it around. Not quite an expert on K cars, but I can tell you that is a Purosangue. Very impressive piece of kit, the new Purosangue. First of its kind in the Ferrari lineup. Still very much a thoroughbred machine. 715 brake horsepower, I believe, out of the V12 in that thing. And, I'm sure many of our racers will get one of those into their garage before long. Of course, the drivers in this series with a deep-rooted passion for Ferrari, and a lot of them with a very significant collection of cars. Coming out of this weekend, of course, it's going to be Uchida still, if this race is anything to go by, with a good advantage. We're not expecting Furatani to be here for the entire season in Ferrari Challenge Japan. That car is set to be a kind of rotating cast of young drivers, as we've alluded to. So Uchida, if he can just follow Furatani around, that might be his solution, because of course, well, does he really want to risk it when well, there's a charged up young man. I was going to say, I don't think that Uchida would risk making a move on Furatani, because he's thinking championship big picture. And in fact, is that I think that's Akita who is particularly charged up about this opportunity to stand on the podium here at Suzuka. Yes, it is. So Akita is delighted with this opportunity. Young Furatani leading them then towards the podium. We'll see our drivers stand up there on the podium momentarily. Speaking to some F4 drivers over the winter, speaking of a one-off appearance at the Brazilian Grand Prix, Matias Ferreira, he said there's nothing like it. A Formula One podium is just the most incredible thing. And that's why you see someone like Akita just so hyped up, so excited to get this opportunity. And there you go, P3, he says P3. Not to mention, of course, Trofeo Pirelli Am winner as well, starting his season off on a high. And it's great to see these drivers so excited about the opportunity. For Furatani, he's proved that he can do in a GT car exactly what he can do in a single-seater. Uchida obviously has social media commitments to fulfill. He wants a picture. I think Akita wants one as well. They're in the green room. Again, you can see how much this means to them. I think that might have been an interpretation of the Formula One theme music that we just heard from Akita in the background. There you go. Jazz singer, potentially, Akita then. Some side-by-side action there in the picture-in-picture. Of course, that's always the fun bit as well. The drivers get to have a little bit of a look at what was going on behind them. And in this race, there was a lot of action that the drivers will have missed at the front, because we had some great scraps in the middle of the field. There you see the podium. There, I believe you can see Antonio Giovinazzi, who will be handing over some of the trophies there, along with Mario Isola, the motorsport director at Pirelli. They'll be a part of the presentations. And here comes Akita, the most excited man in a 100-kilometer radius, seemingly, at the moment. He's delighted to be on the third step of that podium, and of course also the Trofeo Pirelli Am winner. There's Uchida. He's rather more familiar with the heady heights of a podium. and always quite a reserved driver. And it's that calm demeanor that keeps winning him at championships. And Yuga Furitani to the top step of the podium. Great race for Furitani, 4th to 1st in 1 lap, and from there, success. Congratulations once again then to Yuga Furitani, our race winner. Takita receiving his trophy from Le Mans winner Antonio Giovinazzi. Giovinazzi, along with Mario Isola here, making sure the drivers get their hard-earned silverware. Congratulations to our top 3. Yuga Furitani receives the top trophy. He stands on the top step. Looking to do the same again in race 2 of the weekend. Mario Isola presenting the Pirelli trophy as well to Furitani. Some of the biggest names in motorsport presenting trophies there to our winning drivers in Ferrari Challenge Japan. And they have to wait less than 24 hours to go racing again. The start for race number 2 is set for 9:40 a.m. Local time here in Japan, and it's going to be a very compelling watch to see if Yuga Furitani can make it 2 from 2. Furitani wants to share his top step as the drivers celebrate their results. There you hear the champagne music, and the champagne will spray. I think they were trying to get the photos in first, but there's the champagne shower to wrap up Yuga Furitani's first day as a Ferrari Challenge driver. A successful first day for Furitani in the Ferrari Challenge Japan. He'll dry out that race suit in the hotel, and he'll try and do it all again on Sunday. Japanese Grand Prix Sunday will host round 2 of Ferrari Challenge Japan 2024. Will it be 2 from 2 for Furitani, or will someone emerge and challenge the youngster in this second race? So then, race 1 of the season is in the books in Ferrari Challenge Japan. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you join us again. 9:40 local time will be the start of race number 2. Furitani, our first winner of the season.
Yeah, I get the looks from my father, I guess. Yeah, thank you. Me as well. You know, he spent a lot of time here in Suzuka, a lot of time in Japan, and many years with Honda. So it's a pleasure for me to be back here.
Yeah, 僕自身も実は自分の父の大ファンだったりしますね。 彼はもう鈴鹿で本当にいろんな思い出があるので、僕自身も彼を通じてこの鈴鹿で非常にね特別な思いなんで、これで嬉しいです。
お父さんがライダーで鈴鹿走るときに、鈴鹿サーキットを子供の時に来てたりするんですか？
No, unfortunately not. I wasn't born yet. I was still far away from being born. But it was me and my father while we were on the train here from Tokyo. We were watching the YouTube videos of that old Suzuka 8 hours and rewatching some of the iconic starts here in the wet, in finishing at night time. So the 8-hour race starting at 11 a.m. finishing 7 p.m. So very, very cool to watch over these old memories.
そうです。はい、うちの父が鈴鹿で活躍してた時代っていうのは、僕はまだ生まれてなかったか幼かった頃なので、実はその時に鈴鹿に来れてなかったんですけども、YouTube にもね、たくさん彼の現役時代のうちのお父さんの動画は上がってます。で、特に鈴鹿8